It's National Signing Day. How did Clemson do? We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks to you, the everydayers who stick with us Monday through Friday every single week for exclusive Clemson content. And if you're not an everydayer, well, about 70% of you have not yet followed, have not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? You keep coming back. Why not hit that follow, hit that subscribe, help out the channel, and share it with one of your Clemson friends out there. Before we get into today's episode, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you see on YouTube, if you are not on YouTube, I'll tell you, we've got a great show, a packed show, finishing up with segment 3 with some questions that are still out there from National Signing Day, from this weekend and beyond, and the future of Clemson. Segment 2, we'll talk about Matt Luke and what he is doing on the offensive line to build the wall. And then we're going to get everything started off with what I believe to be, I guess you could say, the most interesting or the biggest topic from Clemson's National Signing Day. And that is the track speed that Tyler Grisham has just added. You could call it the Formula One wide receiver class, or the NASCAR wide receiver class, or the Indy wide receiver class, whatever type of racing that you would like. These guys are super fast and have a lot of track speed, and we've asked for that. You know, as fans, we have wanted to see more speed. And I know what you're saying, probably not just at wide receiver, but also on the defensive side of the ball as well. But today, Clemson did improve. And Tyler Grisham, you know, as much kind of criticism as he's gotten over the years, and he did kind of have a little bit of a slow start when he first got hired, he is really coming to his own. I think he's clicking on all cylinders, and those cylinders being a V8 or V10 right now because of the guys that he's bringing in. He is truly reloading the wide receiver group year after year, and you have to like it. If you are a quarterback, a future quarterback out there, you're going to have some real-time athletes, not just wide receivers, but I'm talking about track athletes who are ready to play wide receiver. This could be the fastest group Clemson has had in a decade. This could be the fastest group Tyler Grisham has ever pulled, and he's pulled a bunch of fast guys, don't get me wrong, but Tyler Grisham, again, cannot continue to say enough about how great he has done. When I talk about position groups, when callers on the radio or texters say, well, Morgan, what would you do with specific position coaches? What would you do? How do you evaluate them? Well, to me, I've always been the development side of things comes in the way of, do they know how to play the position? Do they know where to be and what routes to run when we're talking about wide receiver? As far as development goes, I don't put a lot on that on the coach. You know, they need to look like they know what they're doing out there. And the coach is also very responsible for who is out there and evaluating the talent in that way. But ultimately, the development to me is mostly on the player. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with that, but to me, it's mostly on the player. A coach can only do so much. They have to shine when they're out on the field. And the best thing that a position coach can do is recruit better players. Recruiting is not only to reload after you're gone, but it is to replace you while you're still there. I mean, as a position coach in college football, you are actively pursuing better players than what you already have. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. Loyalty to an extent, but you are trying to get and improve on the players you have. And if you can't, at least replace them with guys that aren't too much further down the line. And Tyler Grisham has done very well with that. So where I would evaluate a position coach, to me, Tyler Grisham would be like a 5-star position coach. I don't put a lot on the fact that this guy or that guy didn't turn out to be what we thought they'd be. I put a lot on the fact of, are they going in there and just continuing to reload and bring in better talent or new types of talent to add into what the offense that they're trying to run. And Tyler Grisham has definitely been doing that. Now he added 3, what Dabo Swinney and other analysts are saying as legitimate burners. Naeem Burroughs, 10.59 speed. If you look at his high school numbers, almost 5,000 all-purpose yards. He is seen by many as the diamond of this class, as the superstar of this class. He very well could be a guy that you see immediately in 2026. We know how Dabo slow plays true freshmen. We get that. But I think after 2025, maybe Dabo is going to be a little bit more open to, we have to get the gamers out on the field, the guys that can completely take over a game or change the outcome when in one play. Burroughs is one of those guys. So I don't believe he's going to be off the field very much in 2026. If he may not start at the very beginning of the season, but by the end of the season, you're going to know who he is. That's for sure. Connor Salmin, his parents are from Virginia Tech grads. They're not Clemson through and through, but he loved Clemson. He's also a speedster, 10.44 speed, a national record relay team guy. He's performed in some of these junior Olympics type things. So another speedster guy that just has that track speed that you're looking for. So speed. And let me add another speed. Gordon Sellers, who came out on social media and said this was a dream come true. He'd been waiting to play for Clemson for years, and now he is a Tiger. 10.93 speed with a 6'2 frame. So while he's a little bit up there higher to the 11, in the 10s is good, as we all know. And 6'2 with that height, it's harder when you're taller, as you know, but he is another guy that is going to command respect of the secondary. And these guys may not all start immediately 2026, but this is going to continue to add to the group that they already have. By the time that you see Wesco and Moore being those juniors and seniors and the veterans and the gray hair guys, these guys will be stepping up and becoming the next superstar at Clemson. These aren't just route tree guys. They are plug and play athletes, speedsters that can really thrive at the minute that they arrive. And so I'm very excited to see what we get from them. The past few years, Clemson has had a good mix of guys as well. Grisham has gone in and got size. He's gone in and got possession. He's gone and got a couple of raw upside guys. Now he's thrown in really an infusion of speed, as Jason Priester said over on the Clemson Insider. That infusion of speed is huge to add to what Clemson already has. Again, Grisham may not be the fan favorite as far as coaching goes, and I'm not really sure why, because look what he has done back-to-back classes, what he has done at the receiver position. To me, he is the gold standard of the type of position coach that you want at Clemson. And so I would pick Tyler Grisham over anybody, and that is really my standard for the position coach evaluation. If the offensive coordinator is still Garrett Riley, then I'm okay with that. I've told you this on the radio. I'm not super upset if he stays around. I know there's a lot of rumors that he won't be staying around. To me, Garrett Riley had enough good shown even under a quarterback that you could not trust in Cade Klubnik. And Cade could make some masterful plays, but he would equally make some of the dumb plays as well and really put you behind as an offensive coordinator. You just couldn't trust number 2 for an entire football game. So could Garrett Riley work with these guys? I think so. It all kind of hinges on who the quarterback is going to be as well. But this is a true injection of speed, maybe the best they've had in 5-6 years. If you're looking for a reason to feel optimistic about the future of the Clemson offense and what they could add to if they bring in a good quarterback, then look no further than the 2026 freshman wide receivers that Tyler Grisham has done. So hats off to him. Great job there. We'll talk about another man who has done a great job, and that is at the offensive line coach, Matt Luke, in second segment here on Locked On Clemson. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what making live bets feels like with FanDuel and why it is so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. As a receiver gets hot, hey, you can go all in on that. As a defense tightens up, you can do that as well. Or the momentum flips after a turnover, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live bet spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as the guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Clemson fans want the best offensive line that they can have possible. They've probably been wanting this for decades. Honestly, since I've been a kid, Clemson fans have been demanding a better offensive line, and especially after 2025, yikes. Or as I've seen on social media, yuck, when you get a bad Thanksgiving dinner. That's how I felt about the Clemson offensive line at times in 2025. The fans want it fixed now. They actually wanted it fixed yesterday, and same for me, wanted it fixed before this season. However, this season was an absolute bust when it comes to the offensive line. I will say, criticism towards Matt Luke to me was just because, he's the guy that is coaching these guys up. And if they were performing like that this season, that was terrible. I don't think that's a good reflection upon him. Also, if they were, if the lineup that he had at the beginning of the season continued, that was not the best lineup. As we saw later on, the better lineup was with Parks and Jacobs and not with Sadler and Sewell. So I don't know how they got to where they were this offseason and in the fall going into the beginning of the season, but the offensive line really did not show out very well. So I kind of had a lot of doubts about Matt Luke, but one thing you can't have doubt about is that the guy can definitely recruit. If you want instant physicality, if you want it to be fixed tomorrow, well, the odds are in Clemson's favor because of Matt Luke. And as he continues to build this wall of defense or wall of offense, I guess you could say, it is going to get better, I believe. It has to get better. Some of that I also could put to Garrett Riley forcing these offensive linemen to do things that they're just not built to do. They weren't recruited to do. So the offensive line and the offensive coordinator have to be in sync as well. And that, to me, needs to be addressed in the offseason. Also, who they're going to play in the starting five needs to be addressed in the offseason. But the future of the offensive line, how they're building it out, I actually have 110% faith in Matt Luke because he's now, as the same as Tyler Grisham, he's been able to string together two classes that have respectable offensive linemen that could help immediately. Maybe not all of them, but some of them could help immediately. This class is another real step. This 2026 offensive line class is another real step in getting Clemson back to being a school that provides you or develops multiple all-ACC offensive linemen. I've told you this on the radio. I don't truly believe that you need a superstar a quarterback and to spend $2 or $3 million on that or $5 million on that. I don't believe that. But I do believe that you need to spend a lot of money on the offensive line, and you need to do whatever you can to do that, because when Clemson was winning all of those games and they were so dominant, they were putting multiple offensive linemen in all conference and into the NFL. Maybe not first round draft pick guys. That's always been hard for Clemson to do. I don't even know if they've ever actually even done that. I don't think they have. But so I'm not saying that Clemson's going to do that, but to have guys that are respectable in your conference, that are looked to as kind of the top in your conference, but also draftable guys, that's what Clemson needs to get back to. And I believe that Matt Luke is building towards that slowly. It's an offensive line. It's not going to be instant. Like we talked about with wide receivers, typically those guys are more instant than offensive line. But Luke has brought in 6 linemen. 5 of them are what you would probably call blue chippers. All of them are big dudes. Just to highlight them very quickly, they have Grant Wise. A lot of people are saying looks like he could possibly be a day one guy. I know what you're saying about like day one guys on the offensive line. It's rare. And Braden Jacobs didn't get day one starter. So, Grant Wise is probably not either, but just understand that he is in that mix. So you will probably see him sooner rather than later in 2026. Chance Barclay, great personality. Dabo bragged about him. Clemson man through and through, has a lot of athleticism. Maybe that will help Garrett Riley in the future as well if he continues to stay as the offensive coordinator. Guthrie, Wilms, 6'7" dudes, future tackles for Clemson. Scruggs and Delaney. Those are your 2 like flex guys that we'll just have to see where they develop out, but they're themselves, monsters in the high school ranks. So we'll see how they kind of work out. But it really comes back to the fact that this is what we're waiting. This is what we were waiting for Matt Luke. This is what we wanted to hire Matt Luke for, is bringing in this better talent that Clemson was not getting. A lot of the problems that we saw in 2025, and I mentioned this on the podcast earlier on this season, but a lot of the problems that we had were from Thomas Austin having 2 classes in a row where he absolutely whiffed. Didn't get his first choice, didn't get his second choice, didn't get his third choice, didn't get his fourth choice, didn't get his 5th choice, had to get his 6th and 7th choice. And those guys just never really worked out for Clemson, or they are having to start for Clemson and you just don't want them to start because they're not able to keep up with the competition, even at the ACC level. Reminder though, freshman offensive linemen typically don't fix things immediately. You need a year or two, in the weight room to be able to get to that point. But you can look at guys that have been able to show through. Blake Miller, he's not perfect. He's great inside. He's not that great around the outside. But Blake Miller literally started every single game for 4 years straight. I think he set a record on that. I mean, I don't know if you'll ever get that again. That's so rare. And so the fact that Blake Miller was able to do that and be trusted to do that from the start, I don't know if you'll see it again. Braden Jacobs winning the job late, middle of the year before he got injured, huge for next season because he has a ton of experience and just to keep building on what Clemson already has. Will it be instant fix magic? No, I'm not gonna promote that. I'm not going to promote instant fix magic. Could it be the backbone of 2027? Oh, yeah, definitely. By 2027, this offensive line will be full Matt Luke, and I think we'll be clicking on all cylinders. But 2026 could still have some, as I mentioned with the wide receivers, infusion of talent. So, Matt Luke is still continuing to build that offensive wall and develop his guys. I have to trust what he's able to do with evaluation because it's worked well so far. He inherited a roster of guys that were kind of already set in their ways and kind of close to graduation, and really also weren't great fits for what Garrett Riley wanted to do either. But he is starting to get in his own guys. He's starting to rotate them in and then get more comfortable with Garrett Riley if he does stick around, which I know is a question we'll talk about in segment 3. But if Clemson continues to build this offensive identity of massive dudes that are athletic and young, then this class, add that to the list. Matt Luke nailed it. And I just say give him more time. Don't, while the criticism for 2025 from me and others is just because of the disappointment they were on offensive line, I do believe that now is just a matter of time as he continues to build what he wants out here at Clemson. All right. Hey, we're going to get into segment 3, and it's the final segment. So hopefully you'll stick with me here. I know if you're an everydayer, you will, but we're going to talk about the questions that are still out there that you have been sending me on social media and more right here on Locked On Clemson. The flip, the portal, and Garrett Riley. Those are big angles, big topics that we'll be talking about here in segment 3. Before we get into it, though, where can you find me outside of this podcast? You can find me over on X at the Morgan T Show. I talk all things Clemson. I'll throw in some things about flying and aviation, and you can always message me over there. If you're not on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, then you can always go into the comments, and I'll try to read all the comments. I definitely read all the comments and comment and reply back as much as I can. But I'll talk about some of the questions that are still out there from this recruiting class. You know, Kaden Gebhart was crazy. Safety guy. He flipped to Ohio State, confirmed. I know a lot of the websites out there probably already had mentioned this a couple of days ago. But for the sake of not spoiling anything from their subscription services that I've seen, you know, Kaden Gebhart has been on the radar of being a flip to Ohio State for a few days now, even though he came out and told my friend Jason Priester that, you know, committed was committed, which, you know, is laughable at this point. I don't know if any 17-year or 18-year-old knows anything about commitment, and I don't expect them to. Hopefully one day they will be subject to a contract. And I think that's one of the things that will actually fix college football. Not only fixing college football or contracts, but moving the schedule earlier as well. But Clemson not looking great at safety. He reaffirmed his commitment multiple times to many people, but, you know, he ended up flipping to Ohio State. I'll say this. The haul for secondary hasn't been good for a few years, hasn't been really that exciting. So while this isn't a fatal blow to Clemson's recruiting class at all, or it's not a collapse by any means, it's not something that you want to take lightly. Dabo has mentioned that he is going to use the portal. Now, here's the thing. The vibe that I'm getting, if I can read the tea leaves here of Dabo Swinney, is that it's going to be more of the same. It's not going to be kicking players off the team. It's not going to be see you later, guy. It's going to be, hey, we're still going to develop you. I do believe Dabo has always brought in guys and in the offseason. I know this for a fact, where he's brought them in and he said, hey, this is where we expect you to be for the next season. You're going to be a role player. You're going to be a backup, or you're going to be a potential starter, or you are definitely, you know, going to be in the starting rotation. I do believe that Dabo is upfront and honest about expectations or of performance for a player for the next season and where they want to see them development-wise. So while he may not kick them off the team, if you go out and you tell someone like D. Creighton, D, you know, you're going to be a role player. We're going to recruit over you, and we're going to portal over you. You know, we're going to try to find players that while we're going to still develop you and we'll still keep you here. We're going to find players that are maybe fitting our scheme a little bit better. And then D. Creighton goes into the transfer portal. Now, I don't know if that's how it went, but I will say that that's how I've heard it gone in the past is that while Dabo doesn't kick you off the team, he is very honest about playing time expectations based on performance to date. And so some players he tells the truth. All players he tells the truth, but some players he just, lets them know that the expectation is that you're going to be a role player and not a starter. And if that player wants to be a starter, then maybe they need to look somewhere else. D. Creighton, gone. Shelton Lewis left a few months ago. Those two, outside linebacker, nickel, safety kind of issue. Now with Gebhart not replacing anybody, I'm not mad about it, because I do think one of Clemson's ways that they can improve is in injecting, if you will. This will be the word of the podcast, but they need to inject their team with more veteran guys. Dabo cannot keep doing this whole replace everyone with freshmen. It's just not working at the level that he's able to recruit right now. Maybe back when he was recruiting at a higher level, maybe that was what was going to work. But right now, it's not been the case. And so he's got to supplement with the transfer portal. And he has mentioned that he is going to do that. But it kind of goes back to, well, how many spots is he going to really go after, and what position is he really going to go after? Based on what he said today, I can pretty much tell you with 90% confidence, I don't believe he's going to go out and get some massive quarterback hire or quarterback train out of the transfer portal. I don't believe that. I really don't. I think he feels that he doesn't have a need at quarterback. If he has a need at quarterback, it's going to be a backup quarterback. Well, quarterbacks in the portal don't want to hear that. So I'm not feeling very confident with getting a portal quarterback, but I do feel that he is going to go heavy to get a competing starter at safety, a competing starter at linebacker, and multiple competing starters at the defensive line position, and also the nickel and defensive back. So I believe the defense is going to need a lot of help from the portal. I believe the offense is going to need help potentially from running back and one or two offensive linemen. That's where I think Dabo is going to fill the most need. Right now, in my opinion, Christopher Vizina has waited his time, and Dabo is going to reward that. And Chris Denson has showed a spark of playmaker ability, and Dabo's also going to reward that as well. So those two guys. And Dabo loves Tate Reynolds. Whether you believe it or not, this is a guy that Garrett Riley really wanted. So for me, going into the Garrett Riley discussion and him being the elephant in the room, there's a lot of reports that Riley was going to go to North Texas. Riley was going to go to another team, or he was going to try to get a head coaching job somewhere. I don't believe it at all. Some people have said they don't think that they want Riley to return. To me, some of this may be blowing some snow, because I feel as if while there was a lot of frustrations in 2025, how can you truly evaluate an offensive coordinator who was a Broyles Award winner, who had an offensive line that was that bad, and a quarterback you couldn't trust? So that's my stance on Garrett Riley as it is today. Now, would I be shocked if tomorrow we said, okay, Garrett Riley's gone? No, I wouldn't be shocked. But then where would you go? Are you going to go get Chip Kelly? I don't like that either. So let me know what you think. Over on X, you can message me at The Morgan T Show, or on YouTube, you could get in the comments, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on the show. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs, Alex Dono, they break down the most interesting college conference in all of sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.